I want you to picture the last time you listened to a deep dive or, any kind of spoken word audio. Where were you?
Hmm?
Be honest. You were probably stuck in traffic, right? Staring at brake lights?
Or doing the dishes.
Or elbow deep in dishwater? Exactly. Or maybe at the actual gym, trying to ignore how heavy the weights felt.
It's the ultimate multitasking medium. That's really the selling point, isn't it?
It is.
You can consume information while your hands are busy doing something else.
Exactly. It fills the void. It stops us from being bored. But here's the problem we're tackling today, and it's a problem I think every single listener is going to recognize.
Okay, so.
We treat this audio like background radiation. It just washes over us. We hear it. We might nod along. Maybe we even laugh out loud sometimes.
Yeah.
But an hour later, if someone asked you to explain the core argument you just heard, could you actually do it?
Most people couldn't. Not really. They remember maybe, one anecdote, or they have this vague, warm feeling of knowing.
Yeah,
But
the feeling of knowing.
if you ask them to teach it to someone else, they'd just freeze.
I do this all the time. I'll listen to a brilliant interview, feel so much smarter for an hour, and then by dinner time, it's just gone. Like I never even heard it.
And that is the classic distinction between passive consumption and active learning. What we've found in the research for today is that you can actually flip a switch on that.
Okay.
You can transform that passive time, that commute, that laundry folding session into a high-intensity workout for your brain. But you have to change how you listen.
So we're building a meta skills gym.
That's the metaphor, yeah. We're treating the brain like a muscle and the audio as the resistance you're training against.
And to do that, we have to talk about these two big concepts, metacognition and self-regulated learning. Now, metacognition is a word that gets thrown around a lot, especially in education circles. It sounds so fancy. But what are we actually talking about here?
Simply put, metacognition is just thinking about thinking. It's the executive layer of your brain. So instead of just doing a task, you're monitoring how you're doing the task. You're asking yourself questions like, am I understanding this? Is this strategy I'm using working? What's my goal right now?
So if I'm just listening, that's cognitive. But if I'm thinking about how I'm listening, that's metacognitive.
Precisely. You're stepping back and acting as the manager of your own learning process.
Yeah.
Most people just press play and, I don't know, hope the information sticks by magic.
Right.
Metacognition is taking the wheel and actually driving the process yourself.
I have to say, I love the meta layer of this. We are literally doing a deep dive about how to listen to deep dives. It feels a bit like Inception for your ears.
It is a little trippy, but it's so crucial. Because here's the hard truth. Knowledge is only valuable if it's retained and, more importantly, applied. If you listen to 100 hours of content this year but can't apply any of it, you haven't really learned anything. You've just been entertained.
Which is fine.
Which is fine if that's your goal. But if your goal is growth, you need a new strategy.
So our mission today is to unpack a set of really concrete research-backed exercises that turn you from a passenger into a driver. And the material breaks this down chronologically, right? Before you listen, while you're listening, and after.
Exactly. Think of it like a workout. You have the pregame, the workout itself, and then the cool down.
Okay, let's start with phase one, the pregame. This is before you even touch the play button. And honestly, this is where I usually fail. I just see a title that looks cool and I click it.
And that's where most people go wrong. In self-regulated learning models, this idea of forethought is, well, it's everything.
Forethought.
You have to set an intention. I mean, you wouldn't walk into a physical gym and just start randomly picking up heavy objects without knowing if you're training legs or arms or cardio.
You'd hurt yourself.
You'd hurt yourself, or at least you wouldn't get any results.
So the first exercise is creating what's called a meta-skill blueprint. This is about defining what mental muscle you are actually trying to build with this specific piece of audio.
Right. The research suggests categorizing your listening into 3 specific gym areas. You need to decide up front, am I building mental agility, resilience, or learning to learn?
Let's drill into those. What does training mental agility even look like?
Mental agility is the ability to shift perspectives, to hold conflicting ideas in your head, and switch between the big picture and the tiny details.
Okay.
If you want to train this, you can't just listen to people who agree with you. You have to seek out debates, cross-disciplinary shows, or interviews with people whose worldviews make you a little uncomfortable.
So if I'm, say, a tech optimist, I need to go find the skeptics, not to get angry, but to train my brain to handle that opposing data.
Exactly. You're training a cognitive flexibility to say, okay, I disagree with this, but I can understand the architecture of their argument.
I like that. Okay, the second category is resilience. This one surprised me. How do you train resilience through a podcast?
You do it through narrative, through stories.
Yeah.
You listen to stories of adversity. This is often called vicarious resilience.
Vicarious resilience.
When you hear how someone else navigated a divorce or a business failure or a health crisis, you're essentially downloading their survival code.
We're going to go deeper into how to do that effectively later on, because I gather there's a trick to it.
There is.
But the third category is learning to learn.
Which is exactly what we're doing right now. This is where you explicitly study strategies, how memory works, how to focus, how to build habits. So step one is just that. Before you press play, ask yourself, which muscle am I building today?
It gives the session a job description. I like that. Now, once you know the broad skill, the literature suggests getting even more specific with exercise 2, the one-sentence learning goal.
Yes. This is where we fix the vague intention trap.
Okay.
Most people say something like, I want to listen to this to understand the topic.
That sounds reasonable to me. I want to understand metacognition. What's wrong with that?
It sounds reasonable, but it's kind of useless. How do you measure understand? You can't. The research says you need to be really concrete. You should literally write it down. By the end of this deep dive, I want to be able to. And then you fill in a specific action.
Give me an example.
So instead of, I want to understand self-testing, you'd write, I want to be able to explain how to do self-testing to my colleague. Or maybe, I want to be able to list 3 ways this concept applies to my current project.
I see. It moves the goalpost from just passive intake to active output. You're telling your brain, hey, pay attention, we have a job to do with this information later.
Exactly. It primes your brain for task interpretation. It changes what you filter for.
There's one more pregame exercise here that I think is actually kind of fun. It's called strategy prediction.
I love this one.
It turns the whole thing into a bit of a guessing game.
It does. Before you hit play, you just read the title or the show notes, and you literally predict the content. You make a little bulleted list. Okay, I bet they're going to suggest X, Y, and Z.
So you're basically placing a bet on what the experts are going to say.
You are, and this does something powerful in your brain. It activates your prior knowledge. It wakes up all the neurons related to that topic. But more importantly, it creates curiosity. Now, when you listen, you aren't just passively waiting for info. You're actively checking your work.
Was I right? Oh, I missed that. Wow, they went in a totally different direction.
It creates a feedback loop before the audio even starts. You're investigating, not just receiving. Okay, so we've got our blueprint, our concrete goal, and our predictions. We are finally ready to press play.
And now we enter phase 2, the workout.
This is the during listening phase, and this is where the rubber meets the road. The goal here is monitoring and active processing. But I have to be the skeptic for a second.
Please.
The first exercise listed here is the pause, summarize, question loop. And the recommendation is do this every 5 to 7 minutes.
Yes, that is the gold standard for retention. Okay, but real talk. If I'm driving 70 miles an hour on the freeway, or my hands are covered in raw chicken because I'm prepping dinner, I am not pausing every 5 minutes to take notes. Is that really realistic?
It's a totally fair pushback. And if you are literally driving safety first, please don't write notes on the highway.
Right.
But here's the counter-argument. If you don't pause and process at some point, you aren't really learning. You're just familiarizing.
So it depends on the goal.
It all comes back to the goal. If you just want background noise, fine. But if you are in the gym, if you're trying to actually learn this, you have to create the space for it. Maybe that means you only do this deep listening when you're on a walk or sitting on the train where you can actually pause. The protocol is simple. Pause, summarize the last chunk in 1 sentence aloud. Then ask yourself, what is still fuzzy?
That fuzzy part is so interesting. It's about catching yourself when you think you understand something but actually don't.
We call that the illusion of competence. You hear a sentence, it makes grammatical sense, so you nod. But if you stopped and actually tried to explain it, you'd realize you have no idea what it really meant.
The pause forces you to confront that gap.
Immediately.
Okay, so if we can't pause every 5 minutes, maybe we can try exercise 4, prediction checkpoints. This links back to our little betting game.
This is much easier to do on the fly. At 2 or 3 natural transition points in the deep dive, just hit pause for a second and predict the next example. Okay, they just explained the theory, so I bet the next example will be about. Then listen.
And you kind of tag yourself. Confirmed, partially confirmed, or way off.
Yeah, you grade yourself. It trains forward-looking thinking. It keeps you on your toes. You're not just following the host, you're trying to get ahead of them.
I want to circle back to that mental agility skill we talked about. There's a specific workout for that called mental agility micropauses.
Right. This is for the critical thinkers, or for when you're listening to that debate channel we mentioned. When you pause, don't just summarize. I want you to state the strongest argument against what you just heard.
Ooh, so you're playing devil's advocate against the audio.
Even if you agree with it. In fact, especially if you agree with it. If the host says method A is the best, you have to pause and force yourself to say, actually, method B might be better
It
because
was hard. That takes a lot of cognitive energy.
it burns calories, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
It prevents the echo chamber effect. It forces your brain to construct counter-arguments, which builds immense cognitive flexibility.
Now let's talk about focus. Because no matter how hard I try, about 15 minutes in, my mind starts to wander. I start thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch.
We all do.
Or I start worrying about an email. Their sources mention these self-cycling thought routines. What is that?
It's a focus check-in. Think of it like a system diagnostic you run on yourself every so often. You ask yourself 3 quick questions.
Oh.
1, what am I trying to achieve right now? 2, is what I'm doing right now, just listening, actually helping me achieve that? And 3, what small adjustment would improve my focus?
So you catch yourself drifting, and you troubleshoot it in real time.
Exactly. And maybe the answer is, I'm bored. So the adjustment is, okay, I'll speed up the playback to 1.5x. Or maybe the answer is, I'm lost. So the adjustment is, rewind 30 seconds.
Or maybe the answer is, I'm too distracted, and the honest adjustment is just turn it off and listen later.
That's a valid option. Better to stop than to fake listen for 20 minutes.
100%. Okay, one last exercise for the workout phase, and this one sounds like the most intense one yet. Self-testing on the fly.
This is the ultimate reality check. Mid-episode, without rewinding, you just try to list 3 to 5 key concepts mentioned so far, purely from memory.
The no rewinding rule is just cruel.
But it's necessary. We rely so much on the ability to just scroll back. But in real life, in a meeting, you can't rewind the conversation. This exercise calibrates your feeling of knowing versus your actual recall. If you can't pull 3 concepts out of your brain 5 minutes after hearing them, you didn't learn them, period.
That is a very humbling check. Okay, we've survived the workout. The audio ends. Silence falls. Usually this is where I just rip my headphones off and go about my day.
Right.
But we are now entering phase 3, the cool down.
Or the post-listening reflection. In the science of learning, this is the consolidation phase. This is physically where the long-term memory traces are formed in your brain.
And it's the most neglected phase.
By far.
Yeah.
If you skip this, you lose something like 80% of the value.
Wow. Okay, so the framework suggests a really structured, quick way to do this called the 3-2-1 metacognitive debrief.
It's so fast. You can do this in your notes app in 2 minutes tops. You write down 3 things you learned, facts, data points, ideas.
Okay.
Then you write down 2 ways your thinking has changed because of what you heard. And finally, 1 thing you will do differently next time you learn.
I really like that ways thinking changed part. It's not just fact collection. It's about shifting your mental model. Like, I used to think X, but now I see all this nuance in Y.
And the do differently part ensures you are refining your own learning process. Your 1 thing might just be, next time I won't try to listen while answering emails because I miss half of it.
Been there. Now, if you want to be really rigorous, say you're studying for an exam or prepping for a big presentation, there's exercise 7, retrieval practice, which is also known as the brain dump.
This is the gold standard. Close the app, close your notes, take a blank sheet of paper, a blank screen, set a timer for 5 minutes, and just dump everything you remember.
It's a stream of consciousness.
Yeah, structure it if you can, but the main thing is to get it all out. Then, and this is the key, you open the source material back up and compare.
And you grade yourself.
You grade yourself. Put a check next to what you got right, a question mark next to what was fuzzy or partly right, and a big cross next to what you missed entirely.
That visual, the checks and the crosses, that's got to be confronting.
It absolutely destroys the illusion of competence. It shows you exactly where your blind spots are.
Okay, there's one more cool down exercise that uses the device we're all holding anyway. The teach back voice note.
We always say the best way to learn something is to teach it. So just open the voice memo app and record a 2-minute memo explaining the topic to an imaginary friend or colleague.
Oh, God, listening to my own voice, that's painful.
It is painful. Nobody likes how they sound. But you have to push through the cringe.
Why?
Because when you make it out loud, you will hear yourself stumble. You'll hear where you say, well, basically, it's about,
Yeah.
That thing.
And that is the sound of a knowledge gap?
It's a flare. The stumble tells you exactly what you don't know yet. It's an amazing diagnostic tool.
So we've covered the single session, the pregame, workout, cool down, but now we need to zoom out. We need to talk about the long game. Phase 4 is about building the routine.
Right. This is about shifting your mindset from treating your feed like a randomized playlist to treating it like a curriculum you're designing for yourself.
And the suggestion here is to build 3 channels. So instead of just one giant queue of new episodes, you organize your listening diet.
Exactly. You need to curate it.
Yeah.
Channel A is agility. That's your debate channel. Channel B is resilience. Those are your stories of struggle. And Channel C is learning. That's for strategy and skills.
So when you open your app, you don't ask what looks fun. You ask, what am I training today?
That's the mindset shift.
I want to double-click on that resilience channel. We mentioned vicarious resilience earlier, but the research notes emphasize that most people listen to these stories wrong.
They do. We tend to focus on the tragedy at the start and the triumph at the end.
The Hollywood arc. We like the crash and we like the trophy.
But if you are listening to learn resilience, those parts are almost irrelevant. You need to focus entirely on the messy middle.
The mechanics of the comeback.
Yes. Ignore the "and then I won the gold medal" part. Focus on what did they do on the Tuesday morning when they didn't want to get out of bed? Did they call a friend? Did they reframe the problem? Did they take one tiny micro action?
So you're looking for the algorithm of survival.
Precisely. You're building what's called a resilience protocol. The goal is to distill a personal list of steps like pause, breathe, zoom out, call Dave, that you can use when you hit a wall. You're borrowing their coping mechanisms.
That is incredibly practical. It turns what could be a sob story into a toolkit. Now, how do we make sure we don't forget all this stuff? The sources talk a lot about spaced practice.
This is the anti-binge rule. If you listen to a dense deep dive today, don't just move on. Schedule a review. Literally, put a reminder in your calendar for 3 days from now. Review deep dive notes, then do it again in a week.
Just a quick 5-minute review is enough.
Yes. Just do a quick retrieval practice. It signals to your brain, hey, this information wasn't just for Tuesday's traffic jam. This is for long-term storage.
And to keep track of all the strategies, especially from that Learning to Learn channel, the sources suggest using a traffic light journal.
I use this one personally. It's great. When you hear a strategy like, I don't know, the Pomodoro technique or box breathing, you log it. You color it green if it's something you already use and want to keep. You color it amber if you've tried it, but it needs some work. And you color it red if it's a brand new strategy you want to test.
I like that because it stops you from getting overwhelmed. You don't have to do everything at once. You just have to test the red items.
It turns the podcast from advice overload into a prioritized experiment list.
So we have built a massive framework here. I mean, pre-game blueprints, active workout pauses, cool-down voice notes, a traffic light journal. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
But the sources distill this entire meta-skills gym into a really simple loop called the 3P cycle.
Right. If you take nothing else away from today, remember the 3 Ps. First is purpose. Before you start, name the skill in the question.
Okay.
Second is practice. During the audio, use those active listening moves. Pause, predict, question. And third is play it out. After it's over, run a behavior experiment. Apply one thing in the real world.
Purpose, practice, play it out. Simple.
And that leads to the final provocative thought here. The ultimate goal isn't to be the person who has listened to the most podcasts. The goal is transfer.
Moving the information from the headphones into real life.
That's the only metric that matters. The question you have to answer for yourself is, which strategy discussed today will I test this week, and how exactly will I know if it worked? If you can't answer that, you haven't finished the workout. You've just been sitting in the gym lobby watching other people lift weights.
Well, let's put that to the test right now. You, the listener, don't just let this deep dive end and autoplay the next file. Pause. Try one of these exercises immediately. Maybe do that 3-2-1 debrief right now as our voices fade out.
3 things you learned, 2 ways your thinking changed, and 1 thing you'll do differently.
Turn the gym light on. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Happy learning.